So, Bill, as we think about this building of engagement with the matriarch and the patriarch, perhaps building that relationship with the quieter, more reclusive spouse, it may be the matriarch, may be the patriarch. It just depends upon the situation. Bill, I want you to expand that reasoning into working with adult children. You know, I've found circumstances when I'm talking with couples, and I've actually had couples say, well, I don't know that we're ready to bring our adult children into this conversation just yet. And the adult children are 45 and 50 years of age. So how do you introduce to originally the couple the concept of the importance of engaging adult children, and then once you get that conference with the adult children, how do you bring them into the conversation again in a most appropriate way?
Well, Phil, I think that's a great question. People are sort of faced with that a lot, and I don't know that advisors can overcome the preference that the adult children shouldn't be involved. I think we don't want to impose our will on them. But what we do want to do is we want to help them understand why it's important to bring the children into the conversation.
And to help them reach a conclusion.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so as the advisors are thinking about their client experience, let's step back a minute and think about the family experience. And so when you think about it in that term, when you're really trying to serve the client, it's really natural to say, we're trying to help you through the major transitions in your life. And we want the family to be prepared, not just for today, but also in the future. So there are lots of really wonderful reasons that the children can be involved, even if you don't disclose the specifics around the money that's available, if they're not ready to have that conversation yet. But at some point, you do have to have that conversation. Otherwise, the family is thrown into chaos, and that's not what we want to have happen. Especially around end-of-life issues. So there's what I call a transition conversation that needs to happen. It's not just the conversation around the transition of assets, but it's also the transition of decisioning. Because at some point we all come to a position where we're cognitively impaired in some way, and we are not capable of making the best decisions. When dealing with these very sensitive issues, you have to be flexible and not impose your will and your perspective about what's right onto the client. Phil, let's talk about the impact of the family as a client approach to help the CWS designee sort of understand the motivations behind this. And there's really three big points that we want to cover. The first is in this happy path to success for the advisor, you want to bring mom into the conversation. We're doing that in the couples planning, and that's really important. And this helps you create a relationship with her. So Linda, you shared with me something about women in terms of their relationship with their advisors and a really great outcome from that. What is that?
I know where you're going with this, Bill. Science tells us that women are about 3 times more likely to provide introductions or referrals. And the reason for this is really simple. Again, it goes back to some of the differences in the male and female brains, where male brains tend to really thrive on domination and winning, for example, and female brains tend to thrive on collaboration, which is really interesting. So if you're the best advisor in the world and I'm a man, I don't want to tell anybody. You're my secret weapon. If I'm a woman, I want to tell everybody.
That is a tangible reason why you want to bring the matriarch or mom into the conversation to do couples planning. The second piece is if you can show the couples service sets that are specific to them, and as they change their roles and they go through different life stages, how those service sets are going to help them specifically as they move through their life. You can also show service sets that you've created for the children, right? Which is really powerful because moms generally think about financial relationships different than men. Again, something you shared with me. And that is the men have a tendency to look at the performance of their accounts, while the women have a tendency to look at the performance, but also the provision of what the wealth can provide for the family members. So if you've got specific service sets for the children, she's going to be much more likely to encourage the kids to take advantage of that. And if you've got a service set for very, younger children, that probably aren't going to pay for it, guess who wants to pay for it? It's going to be mom. So that generates new revenue, and she's going to want to introduce you to those children that she has. So now you're capturing new, younger households. So it becomes a prospecting and a revenue generating process. The third thing is you want to hold family meetings. The family meetings are really important because they set the expectation of all the family members that the advisor is the thread that holds the family together from a financial and wealth management standpoint throughout the generations. So when dad passes away, and we know the research says that women sometimes change those accounts pretty often to some new advisor, we've got a great relationship with the wife. We don't lose that account. As mom and dad get older and they're spending down their assets, the younger children are coming up, they're buying new services, so it smooths out your revenue stream. So when you have an understanding of the impact of the client as the family on the CWS practice and the impact on the family and the benefit it gives, think about it being an easy way to bring in new clients that are younger. It's something that advisors today are challenged with. But more importantly, it's a way for you to smooth your revenues. And ultimately, it's the way that you win as well as the family wins. And it's really a powerful approach.
So sustainability of the practice is a big key there. But one of the things, Linda, you and I have talked about in the past is a lot of advisors are reluctant to bring up this concept of family meetings with their clients because they're fearful that the client's not going to want to host a family meeting or have them participate. But I heard something very recently that was pretty apt, and that is a family meeting is going to occur whether you are proactive in scheduling it or not. And unfortunately, the most often time it does occur is about a week or two after the patriarch's funeral, in which everybody sits down and tries to think through, okay, what's happening. So our coaching, our counsel to you is to have that conversation with the patriarch and talk about your ability to see your influence carried forward is to ensure that we're doing those family meetings today.
Think about this for a minute. Consider the 13 wealth management issues and how many of those topics are going to come up at that post-funeral meeting that you were just talking about. Executive compensation, executor and trustee selection, beneficiary designations, estate planning. I mean, all of these things are really family issues. And so we want to make sure that we build the plan together before rather than after.
And unfortunately, at that point in time, the die has been cast, so it were, and the ability to influence changes on that may be limited.